friends, I'm Michelle from Black in HR. Membership with Black in HR has amazing benefits designed to elevate you as a professional. Our members are able to grow their careers by connecting with each other through networking events, professional courses, and social groups. Our elite membership program gives you access to discounts on coaching and courses, private events, free masterclasses taught by world-class instructors, and direct job referrals to top companies. We invite all professionals of any background, field, and demographic to join our community. Visit us at theblackandhr.com and register for our weekly new member orientation class to speak with our team about what we have to offer. We're excited to have you join us, and we'll see you soon.
Today we have a special event for you.
Hey everybody, thank you for that beautiful introduction. It is a pleasure to join Black in HR.
If you think back through time, right, there have been plenty of opportunities where you've been put in space.
The framework of the choices we make in our life is the next, and then opening doors to new ideas, new people, new information.
Black in HR in the collective, let's dive a little bit deeper on this, has more than 10,000 members.
Okay, so hi everyone, welcome to the Collective by Black in HR. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We're excited to present with you our Fireside Chat series. So before we start, we have a special video from our sponsors at Block. They are the owners for brands that we're familiar with, like Tidal, Cash App, and Square. We are super thrilled to grow our partnership between Black in HR and Block. Thank you. Okay, so today we have a special event for you. So we are joined by Hill Harper and Quinton Blanton. So Hill Harper is the founder and chairman of the Black Wall Street digital app and wallet. He's on the board of directors for the National Black Bank Fund, named honorary national co-chair of the redevelopment of Black Wall Street, Greenwood Chamber of Commerce, and served on the President's Cancer Panel, having been appointed by President Obama in 2011. So, welcome. We also have Quinton Blanton, who is the Regional Vice President of Sales and is responsible for the Southern California region at Collective Health. In his nearly 20 years in the healthcare industry, he has held roles in strategy, provider contracting, underwriting, account management, as well as local and national account sales. Prior to joining Collective Health, he spent 5 years at Blue Cross Blue Shield of California and 12 years at Anthem. Quinton is a graduate of Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. And in addition to this, he also serves as an advisory board member at Black in HR. In his spare time, he enjoys sports, music, and spending time with his wife and son. So please join me in welcoming Quinton and Hill.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that, Kersha. Thank you, Prathan, for having us. This is going to be really exciting. I know Hill and I get to talk a lot and get to interact a lot. And, I think our relationship started because of networking. So, I'm super excited to kind of launch this fireside chat discussion today with you. And I'm looking forward to you imparting all of your knowledge and experience and in many different career fields and areas on the audience here today. So appreciate you being here, Hill.
No, I appreciate it. Hey, everybody. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. It is a pleasure to join Black in HR, and I'm excited about this discussion. You and I get to talk offline a lot, but it's wonderful that we're going to have the opportunity to talk together. So I'm excited about this, and I know that at the end we're going to have an opportunity to actually get questions from folks in this whole virtual Zoom that we're in. So I'm excited to interact with everybody who's on. And so, hey, everybody, this is a great program that you all have.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. I like to kick things off by just kind of level setting. The definition of network is this action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. So we think about, the personal relationships that we have, the personal opportunities that we have to network, the professional opportunities that we have to network. So Hill, let's kick it off with, I'm gonna call this one a softball one, right? Why do you believe there's power in effective networking, and how have you used networking throughout your career?
Okay, well, when we talk about power for me, and that I'm a guy who often talks about physics, and I use physics as examples. I'm no Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I know a little bit. And when we talk about power, what we really are talking about is energy. And throughout physics, energy tells us that if you want to move a mass that's in stasis or something that's unmoving, you need to apply an equal or greater amount of energy to it. And so what networking actually helps you do and helps us do is bring together more force or more energy to actually make a difference or make a change. Many of us see a problem and we know that there is a solution to that problem. However, we may not have the actual level of power in just ourselves to move it because it's a big issue or a big problem. So therefore, how do we do that? We come together in groups. And so when I think about networking, I think about community and I think about community building. If you really think historically, particularly in our community, with us, where we've been able to make the most impactful change is when we've come together. We've come together to work together. And that's why I call the platform I launched called the Black Wall Street, right? Because it's, we can get into that later about what's an example of how you actually make a difference. We make a difference, not by the individual, but we make a difference through community. And another way to build community is through a so-called network of people. And that's what networking is to me.
No doubt. Absolutely. So I'm going to pivot a little bit. Let's dive a little deeper. You've written a number of books, right? And in one of your books, you talk about, well, in a couple of your books, you talk about the fact that we're all active architects of our own lives. So can you talk to the audience a little bit more about that as it pertains to networking?
Well, first of all, Q, I'm a little upset that you undersold my books a little bit.
I want to take your thunder. I knew you were going to take the opportunity.
4 of them are New York Times bestsellers. You can't mention that. You wrote some books, like you make it seem like I self-published some stuff and handed it out on the corner. I mean, come on, man. No, I'm kidding.
Let me tell you.
I'm really kidding about that. But so seriously, here's the deal. I always talk about this idea of us being active architects of our own life. And the reason why I talk about that is because I truly believe that we all can build our lives any way we want. In fact, whether we admit it or not, we are already actively building our lives the way we may not be building the way we want to all the time, but we are certainly building them. And if we approach, and to me, it's about approach, and it's about having all the elements that an architect uses to conceptualize and build a structure, we can do that same process in building our lives. And that sort of starts to demystify the process of actually building, whether it's a career, whether it's a family, whether it's approach to education, whether it's approach to healthy living. All of these different things can be broken down in what I call an architect type of structure, because what's powerful about, to me, architecture is that oftentimes things are built in a place where things don't exist. And many of us want to build our lives that way. And so, at least that's the case for me. There are things I want to manifest that don't exist yet, right? And so what's the process used to get there? The first thing an architect uses to build a structure is a blueprint, right? So you need a plan. And most of us, if you ask most people, I say, hey, what's your blueprint for your life? I say, do you have one? Most people say, oh yeah, man, I got a blueprint. And I say, well, what, can I see it? And they say, dog, I got it right here. I got you. And I say, and my thing is this, Quentin, I know you recently built a house, right? The house that I think I'm seeing behind you. If the architect you hired to build that house said, hey, write me this big check, the biggest check you're going to write of your life. And you say, well, where's the blueprint or the plan? And he says, I got it right here. You're good. I got you. Would you write that check? No, you wouldn't. And so you need a plan for accountability, not only for other people, but for yourself. So it starts with a blueprint. To me, the second step that an architect builds on the land, once they have their materials in the place, is the foundation. Foundation's critical. And oftentimes the size and thickness of the foundation is directly proportional to the size and scope of what the structure or what your dreams are. So therefore, all the major foundational elements, we have to start setting up and building. And foundation building in life is actually a never-ending process, unlike a building, right? You dig and build the foundation and that's it. But what I love about, when I'm walking around New York, and they're building a very tall building, what do? They dig really deep to go very high. Why? Why? Because they need a very thick, deep foundation to anchor the building so it's solid. And many of us attempt to do big things and build big lives without necessarily having the supporting foundational elements to create, even if we hit once, hit twice, have that sustainable. And so foundation building is a critical piece. Then there are two other phases I won't break down, but there are two other phases. And to me, the framework or the choices we make in our life is the next, and then opening doors to new ideas, new people, new information is the fourth. And so to me, that process of walking yourself through and making yourself go through those processes of being an active architect of your own life helps actually demystify the process, and also helps to impart some measure of patience. Because in this world where we see all these examples of folks doing this, doing that so quickly, we don't often see examples of journey. And everybody who has manifested whatever they have manifested in their life, there's a journey involved in that. And oftentimes we just see results. And so that we get attracted to a result-oriented mindset when it's really a journey-oriented mindset that creates one happiness, one health, and one, I believe, ultimately success.
I love that analogy because, just going back to the building of the house, right? Building my house. Every time you come back to revisit, okay, the blueprints have been set. Now the foundation is poured. Every time you come back, there's satisfaction in seeing the progress that happens each step of the way. Without that blueprint, Chad Owens in the chat said, writing it down makes it actionable. Without that blueprint and seeing each of those phases, then you get to miss out on some of what you just mentioned, some of that joy that exists there. I really appreciate that. Thank you for breaking it down like that. So I might be biased, but you're in the greatest fraternity in the world. When you think about networking and the power of effective networking, how can outside organizations help to build a powerful network?
I think powerful networks are built through authenticity. and through organic means and creating attraction. Oftentimes I get hired to consult with, whether it be corporations, or sometimes it's DE&I wings of major corporations, as well as come in and do talks. And through that work, oftentimes we hear that folks have put into place all of these so-called compelling things, but they're wondering why people aren't, quote unquote, taking advantage of them. Mm-hmm. And and at the end of the day, rather than actually going to people and asking them what they want or what they'd be attracted to and creating carrots so that people organically gravitate towards wanting to build community, folks often prop up things that they think people should want and then expect folks to come. And so it's done in to me, oftentimes the reverse order. And maybe that comes out of a history of mine in the entertainment business or whatever, is it you got to give the people what they want first, and then sort of then attempt to educate and uplift and empower mindset shifts. And then through that process, you meet people where they are and then lead them where you would like them to be. And in fact, they begin to lead themselves organically because they realize that there are new and different sets of choices. I call it the choice rubric, much like a Rubik's Cube, but if you have a choice rubric, you can actually offer different choice sets to people. And as you say, hey, you've been making this choice, it's just like dealing with the wealth gap. My big lean in, and I believe the legacy of my life will this solve of this wealth gap problem that I think is perhaps the biggest and largest, most pressing issue for us today, because I truly believe you can't have social justice without economic justice. Right. Can't solve that by just propping up things and saying people should do this, they should do that, they should do this. No. You have to offer and educate and offer different choice rubrics so that people can then have mindset shifts to lead to different choices. And to me, that's how community, that's how networking works, and that's how organizations can actually build and make themselves attractive. When we think about our fraternity, Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, sure, there is a legacy piece. If Dr. King was a member of this fraternity, you say, wow, there must be something about it. If all of these incredibly successful Thurgood Marshall, we can go on down the line, legacy piece, but there's some young cats, they don't care about that. So what are you making compelling today that resonates with them today? Why should they show up and be a part of a service organization like a fraternity, like Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated? What is that about? And the idea here is every organization has to put out what I call a compelling product or a compelling reason to attract people and meet people where they are with no judgment, and then offer alternatives and education as to why these alternatives may be better choices for ultimate goals that they may want to manifest.
Appreciate that. In another fraternity, shout out to Morehouse College. I saw my brother Renard Caldwell joined the call, so shout out to Morehouse and all the HBCUs out there. So Black in HR in the collective, let's dive a little bit deeper on this, has more than 10,000 members across the country and provides all kinds of opportunities to network with fellow members. If you were handed a network like this in any of your career fields, whether it be, through the banking industry, through acting and entertainment, how would you approach that level of access? Is there something where you're like, okay, I got 10,000 people I can reach out to right now? What's the first thing you're going to think about doing?
I think that the first thing, first of all, Black in HR is just such a powerful force because of the fact that there's so many powerful executives that are touching all aspects of industry. And at the end of the day, if we break everything down to the foundation or the root, what do we need in our community? Jobs and opportunity. We need jobs, the ability to earn income, and we need opportunity to build businesses, opportunity for growth, opportunity to become executives at higher levels. Those two things, jobs and opportunity, to me are foundational. And to me, Black in HR represents that critical organization that can create jobs and opportunity for us, by us, across the spectrum of industry. And when you have an organization that touches that, it's incumbent upon to bring people together to, again, not judge what makes your, I always say, what are you passionate about? And then someone says, well, what do you mean? What am I passionate about? I say, what makes your heart beat faster?
Right.
If you hear about an issue, if you hear about an opportunity, if you hear about, if you see something, it either makes your heart beat faster because it makes you angry, or makes your heart beat faster because you're excited about it. Like, I want to take advantage of something like that. Don't judge it. Don't judge it. So what makes your heart beat faster? And if you could actually start aligning groups within the group of 10,000 of folks that are mission aligned with what makes their heart beat faster on both the proactive side of, oh, I get really excited about creating opportunity down this lane, as well as folks who are like, my heart beats faster because I need to solve this problem, something that's serious and it's a big issue. And you start aligning groups and mission around just organically what already makes your heart beat faster, you can have these powerful subcommittees doing really powerful work in a really interesting way. The other piece is, and this is critical, I often talk about hyper collaboration within our community. There has been over 500 years of systemic, purposeful work to make sure we don't collaborate.
Yep.
We have had our families broken up systematically, strategically, horrifically. We have endured trauma, abuse, murder, death, to make sure we don't operate, work together, et cetera. And it's carried over. I hear all the time folks say that, I don't trust this person, or we can't work together, or there's only room for one. All of these notions that we've inherited that are lies, that are complete lies. Where we win in our community historically is when we are working together. And therefore, when you have an organization of 10,000 and you find out how to reverse engineer the misinformation that's been sort of systemically brought on through generational trauma and et cetera, to say, hey, you win by working together, hyper collaboration, bringing more folks in and collaborating than if you try to do everything in silos or onesies and twosies or groups of threes and all of this. We have to collaborate or we will perish. Real talk. And when we do collaborate, we win all the time. And so that's the beautiful thing I love about us. I love about what we do. I love about our intelligence and our work ethic. And I want to collaborate with everybody on here, because that's how we actually reverse and hack the systemic inequities that have existed for a very long time, simply through hyper collaboration in our community with ourselves and helping each other win.
So, Hill, you're talking about collaboration, and I think this is really important because coaching is a component of Black in HR as well. We encourage people to, come in, find a coach, figure out where there might be gaps or opportunities in their career fields, resumes, et cetera. So coaching is a huge component.
Huge.
One of the things that you talk about a lot is the personal board of directors. Can you talk about, from a networking perspective, if we talk about collaborating within the community, what that means to create this personal board of directors and or any sort of coaching relationship?
I'm glad you read my books, Quentin. I'm glad. This is good. Yes. Personal board of directors is a critical component, I believe, to manifestation. And why? Why is that? Let's just break down, every corporation has a board of directors, certainly publicly traded, et cetera, right? It's anything that's gone past the Series A round, you're assembling a board of directors. And what is the board of directors fundamentally? The board of directors fundamentally is not doing the work of the everyday work of the company, right? The day-to-day. The board of directors is there to put people in position to succeed, to make sure that the organization is staying on mission, to be a fiduciary to the shareholders, the owners, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very overarching group that helps navigate the success of the entity. And so when you think of your own personal board of directors, you think of it that way. Now, that's why it's critical who you put on your own personal board. No one can do this on our own.
Right.
That's it, right? So you have to understand, but we all can use help with navigation. But who you have help navigate you is the critical piece here. And this is why I want people to understand. This is how you choose someone, whether they should be on your board of directors or not. You don't choose the most powerful person you know. You don't choose the richest person you know. You don't choose the best looking person you know. You don't choose the person with the most followers. You don't choose It's none of those things. This is how you choose whether someone should be on your personal board of directors or not. It's whether they ask you questions or tell you what you should be doing. What do I mean? And this is why I say sometimes, your parents may not be right for your personal board of directors. Y'all know what I mean by that. Oftentimes, there are folks in our lives that like to tell us what we should do or be doing or what we're doing wrong. I know some of you out there that are married yeah, that's my spouse. I know that my spouse definitely shouldn't be on my board of directors. I get you. I understand. Well, I don't get you because I'm not married, but that's a whole different thing. So Quentin, I know you know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to get you in trouble.
I love my wife.
But so, hey, here's the deal. Here's the difference. If you have a dinner meeting scheduled and you call somebody up and you say, hey, where do you want to go? What do you want to have for dinner? They're like, man, you know what we should do? We should go get that pizza, or we should go get fish. We should go get that chicken. Versus someone who says, well, what do you want to eat? And then you say back to them, no, what do you want to eat? And you say, what do you want to eat? What do you want to eat? What do you want to eat? And it goes back and forth a little bit. That's a great symbiotic relationship because each person is trying to help the other person manifest. That has to be the mindset. So what do I mean in a personal board of directors context? Someone who comes up to you and says, hey, what are your goals and dreams? And how can I help you manifest them? What do you dream about? What makes your heart beat faster? What does success look like to you? If someone is asking you those questions, you should fall on the ground, grab them and say, will you be on my personal board of directors? If someone's walking up to you, you know what you should be doing? You should be buying Tesla stock. And you know what else you should be doing? You need to sell your house and then go move to Manhattan Beach and whatever. Point being, there are people who have a habit of trying to tell us what we should be doing versus asking us, what do we want to manifest? And then helping us figure out how to get there. So you want to assemble a group of people who are asking you questions and asking you in questions that seem to be important to you. And if you're lucky enough to assemble more than a few of those people, you are amongst the rare few who have assembled an excellent personal board of directors. And if they just happen to be people who also have the ability to influence and the ability to create new and other relationships based on your answers, that's just a bonus. Right. They don't have to be that, because ultimately you want people to help you think through your own choice and decision matrix and choice rubric. And so as you think through that, those are the people who are helping you steer and guide your choices. Because what we have to always break down is that every single day is a series of thousands of choices we make that are building the life that we want. Most of us have gotten so habit formed that we don't realize we're actually making choices at every single step of the way. And it seems that choices are being made for us. And that's ultimately what I call that idea of zombie think. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we've lived so much life, collective life, and we've developed so many habits that we make decisions based off habit rather than based off whether it's actually the most efficient, effective for manifesting where we actually want to get and go to. And being able to have people in your life that help you really stop and analyze that and go back and say, hey, are we being the most effective, efficient? Are we actually happy? Are you happy doing what you're doing? Happiness and fundamentally rooting in that. And, what's the over under on happiness? How do you figure that out? How do you actually engage in your spirit and your happiness and who you are? And if you're off and it's not there, then there's some assessment that has to be done. And obviously we can talk about therapy, we can talk about mental health, we can talk about physical health and how that feeds, we can talk about what you eat and all those things. But all these things play a part, and having people to help you work through those things is a critical piece to that manifestation.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. I like to say a lot of times, chase the dream, not the dollar will follow. But, having that board, having those individuals that are willing to ask those right questions for you to push you into that, in the direction of ultimately what's going to create that happiness for you, and ultimately wealth and health in your life and in your relationships, et cetera, is huge.
And I don't want to undersell it. It's not easy to find, right? Yeah. But it's relatively simple. And I often talk and I write about this, the difference between simple and easy. And I think it's very important that we're all aware that there's a difference, but most often we conflate the two. So it's very simple, this what I'm talking about. It's very simple, whether someone asks you questions or they're telling you what to do. That's simple, but it's not easy to find that person. And so don't conflate those two things ever. But really reach for simplicity. It's usually the most simple foods seem to be the most healthy. The most simple exercises seem to be the best ones. The most simple ideas seem to be the most universal. And so the simplicity is really critical and something something to look for. But ease is not. And I never look to live a life of ease. I look and push for some measure of simplicity.
A lot of people may not know that you went to Harvard Law and ran across some very interesting individuals that you ultimately network with and have developed great relationships. I speak of President Obama when I say that. But I want to ask you something that maybe folks don't ask you a lot. Like, if you think back through time, right? There have been plenty of opportunities where you've been put in spaces. I think about this myself because I know I have, where I'm like, dang, if I would have said this, or if I would have talked to that person, or if I would have phrased this just a little bit differently, that would have been a little bit more effective from a networking perspective. Is there a time that you can think of where you felt like, hey, maybe I could have networked a little bit differently in that environment? And if you can think of that moment, what's maybe a lesson that you pulled from it to help you, as you move forward again in developing your networking skills even more?
Sure. I'll answer that for something that happened very recently, relatively recently in terms of that question. And I'm still frustrated by what I didn't do. And it happens to all of us. So I was invited to an event, a tech CEO's event. I'm a tech CEO, a founder of the Black Wall Street digital wallet, and one of the first Black-owned digital wallets, certainly in North America. And so I was invited to a CEO gathering. It was kind of like a cocktail party at someone's house, but it was all tech CEOs. And Bill Gates was there. And I desperately wanted to talk to him because I'd read that he was interested in doing something about the racial wealth gap through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and on and on. And I depending on the day, he's either the wealthiest, second wealthiest, third wealthiest person in the world, and his ability to scale impact through dollars is real, obviously. But it was like the CEO of Zillow was talking to him, and the CEO of Redfin, and there was another guy who's runs Amazon, blah, blah, blah. Point being, they were all there in a group. And I was like, well, let me just wait till he kind of breaks away and I'll talk and I'll wait, and I waited. And then I was talking to somebody else who I really enjoyed the conversation. I looked up and he was gone. Mm. And I really sat back and said, you know what? First of all, how often does Bill Gates have the opportunity to have a smart, intelligent brother come up to him and talk to him in a real way about something that he has claimed he is interested in solving and can in large measure do a lot to help solve? And why did I think that whatever conversation those CEOs were having with him was somehow more important than me going there and getting involved in that conversation? In other words, I discounted myself and very frustrated by that. I still am frustrated by it because it shows to me that I still haven't solved certain things about my own level of comfort in the arena of being a tech CEO.
Right.
And, you know, if it was a film scenario and that was Steven Spielberg, would I have felt more comfortable coming up to him? Probably, right? You know,
Right.
and so we can understand that we get used to operating in certain pools or spheres of influence, but when we're outside and maybe new spheres, we still have to bring that same skill set to bear and be very mindful of where what I call scotomas, which means blind spots, exist. We all have scotomas. We all have blind spots, things that other people can see that we don't necessarily see. And so that was a scotoma on my part, that I was actually not really waiting for him to break away. I was actually dealing with my own set of fears and insecurities. Yeah. And so, and if I'm able to see that from a removed perspective, I can see that. Or if I have somebody with me, that's why a lot of people have entourages, to be quite honest. Because someone whispers to you, man, just go over there, talk to them. And you're like, you know what, you're right. I go over there, or you come with me, right? That's why we do that, right? That's why we have entourages, or we have our number two, or our right-hand person, or our wing woman or wing man or whatever, to help us through situations where we may have scotomas. And I went to that event by myself because it was a single invite event, because they wanted to, and they didn't want people bringing their handlers or their number twos, or because they wanted everybody to talk directly. So I was there on my own. He was there on his own. And so that's an example where I have to understand and be more mindful about what my scotomas are and how I operate and move through space.
Yeah. It almost makes you think about what you hear people talk about all the time. It's like, what's your elevator pitch? And, you know, I find myself in those environments as well, where I'm like in a room and I see someone I want to talk to. You know, what I've started to make myself do more frequently is say, I know that I'm going to be in this space. I'm preparing myself to talk to whomever might be in that room. If I have that 5 seconds, this is what I'm gonna say. These are the things that I'm going to bring up. And sometimes those things just fly out of your head, even in the moment. But definitely one of those things that I think a lot of folks can relate to.
The other piece I want to add on to that is, and this is much more nuanced, but when you're in rooms, you should be able to cultivate a sense or an air where that person is coming up to you. In other words, you're attracting as well. And that's the other piece, right? That you know, we all have our own magnificence. Everybody on this Zoom is magnificent.
No doubt.
Everybody. But everyone's magnificence is a little different. And sometimes we bring a certain element of our magnificence to different rooms, yet remembering that whatever your magic is, bring it to every room. And just because it's a different group of people, they still will feel it, even though they may not understand it.
Yep.
And that is another nuanced point, because just as much as I stopped myself from going up to him, I still didn't bring all of my magic to the room that would have made him have to organically come to me.
Yeah, no, that's deep. You're absolutely right. It's this concept of bringing your best whole self. And a lot of times as Black folks, we kind of put that in a shell a little bit when we walk into spaces.
Well, oftentimes we've learned, one of the brilliant things about us, which I love, that makes us so mercurial and beautiful, is that we all know how to shapeshift. Right? There's not so many folks I know. Most folks can be comfortable on the corner. They can be comfortable in the White House, right? And all shapes in between. I mean, what's the lyric? Oh, I like that Big Sean lyric where my man says, shout out to Detroit. Oh, I love you. Okay. I like what he says, I've seen courtrooms and court sides. Most people haven't seen both, whatever. I'm bastardizing the lyrics, but basically he's saying what I just said. He's seen, he sits on the court side and, he's tripping referees, but he's also seen courtrooms, right? And so it's a beautiful analogy that most of us from our community have the ability to exist in all spheres, and we can go in all spheres. But to your point, oftentimes we get so used to shape shifting and fitting ourselves into new environments that we sometimes leave certain parts of our magic behind through that shape shifting process. And so finding out your magic and all of that, but also doing it appropriate for the venue, but at the same time, still bringing all your magic to the table. Those are very nuanced points that are delicious and beautiful to explore. And again, goes back to us talking about process and journey, because this is a journey. And there'll be other opportunities for me to be in rooms with people who are worth 100 B plus, right? So it's not a one-off, but it's just a nice reminder of the journey and how to end up having conversations with folks that they have the ability to scale impact monetarily in certain ways that can make a difference.
Man. I was about to ask you another question about being shy in rooms, but I think that covers a lot of it. Dana said, maintain the magic in every room. That's real. Maintain the magic in every room that you step foot into. Look, we're at 3.
And watch this. That takes energy. And so we're going way back to the beginning of this conversation. It takes energy. And sometimes it gets tiring. And, people are like, dang, it's hard. It's hard being us, for real. And so, but we still have to find the energy to do it, because maintaining the magic in every room requires you to get your energy up every time. And many of us show up, we get beaten down, we get beaten up, and we show up with too little energy to move the mountain.
It's one of those things. We got the magic, but it takes that energy. Not everybody has to do what we have to do, but I think collectively, as we go through all the things that we talked about today relative to—
And let me say this, Q, real quick. This is a very important point. You don't have to bring as much energy individually if you create a network of support of folks, because oftentimes those people will actually project your energy before you even get into the room. If I have people that I love and support, I will have already talked you up. I will have already supported you. I would have already dropped a word. And that helps before you even walk in the room. And we need to be doing that with each other. When people come at us, man, and I know you know this, I had a situation where folks started coming at me with something that was so different than my soul and spirit and all the work I do. And I actually got depressed about it because there was no one really coming to my defense publicly, but there were a lot of people trying to come at me negatively publicly, trying to get clicks. And we have to defend each other. We have to publicly be there for us and also promote each other. We have to defend and promote, defend and promote, defend and promote, because there's always going to be people trying to break you down and break us down, particularly if we're working together. And that is so important today, because everything that people do is so public and known. And so it used to be, it didn't matter as much because no one really knows what happened in that room or what happened here, or what happened there, who's working where, and what's, between LinkedIn and all the social, everybody knows everything about it, or at least they think they do. And then if someone comes at something with something that is just not true, or speaks nothing to the person's character, who they are, and say, hold up.
That's not that person.
What about the 20 years? How, and in what sense does that make to be that person? So you must be conjuring something. In fact, have you talked to him? Have you gotten, in other words, that type of thing we have to check. I can't even get Wikipedia to change the name to my real name. In other words, they have me down. If you look up my name, it says Francis Eugene Hill Harper. My birth certificate says Frank Eugene Hill Harper. I wanted to say Frank. I wanted to be accurate. But for some reason, someone told them my real first name was Francis, and they won't change it. Yet, whenever someone comes to me and says, "Hey, Francis," I know that they got that off Wikipedia because that's never been my name. And so people believe this stuff that's online, that's open source, that has no semblance of actual truth. And it's crazy to me that we don't check it, but we have to check it for each other. We have to protect each other, because if we don't, everyone's going to be running for clicks.
So now we can post this conversation publicly somewhere, and then on Wikipedia, tag
they
it
still
as a
won't change
reference.
it. I've tried to change it. I've tried to change it so many times because I'm named after my Uncle Frank, who's deceased. And that's my father's brother. And I wanted to be Frank, but they won't change it. I don't know why. They won't change it.
Well, look, it's 3:50, Hill, and I know you got to run here shortly. If you have a question, put it in the Q&A now. I know a lot of folks have been talking and mentioning things. I've tried to call out some things that I've seen in the chat. Shout out Fritzick Allen. What up, Frat? How you doing? Sandra Medley asked a question. Mothers frequently get asked how they balance big jobs with family. You're a proud father to my nephew Pierce, to your son. How do you balance it all?
I always talk about this concept that I coined called sequential mastery. And to me, sequential mastery is, I hate the saying, don't be a jack of all trades and a master of none, because that's a lie, because that belies the idea that we don't have the capacity to be masters of many things. I believe that we all have capacity. You can be amazing in that big job and also amazing as that big mom, right? I'm not saying you're big. I've never seen you, but you get my point. But if you are big, I love that too. That's no judgment. And but the deal is that what I try to focus on is that the sequential mastery of things, meaning whenever I'm doing something, I'm doing that thing. And I'm not trying to do other things while I'm doing it. So when I'm doing a chat with Quentin, this is what I'm doing. I'm not thinking about the fact that I got to pick up my son in 10 minutes and his virtual math class starts at 4:00, blah, blah, blah. I'm not thinking about those things. I'm not doing all this other stuff. I'm thinking about this and attempting to zero in. But when it becomes son time, I'm not thinking about what I said at Black in HR or on the chat or what's happening on social media or anywhere else. I'm just focused on that. And also, to be true, I mean, I'm in a situation where I have help. I'm able to, have, great help to help me raise my son, which is fantastic and in a privileged place. And so, full transparency, I mean, that's a big deal, right? And so, right. At the end of the day, though, that concept of sequential mastery, I think, is one to bring. So when you are in that boardroom, that's all you're doing. That's who you are. And obviously, sometimes emergencies come up and you have to jump in and out of roles. But the more you can sequentially master things and really focus in being, we could talk about just being present, and everyone's got different terms for it, but you get my point. And I think that that's it. And I celebrate you. I celebrate all the moms out there, because it's not easy at all. And all the dads, I celebrate you. It is not easy at all. And particularly with our young people in this day and age, because it's not easy being a young person in this day and age, particularly if you got melanin in your skin and curl in your hair. And so we got to fight for them. We have to fight for these platforms. And we didn't even get the chance to talk about the Black Wall Street. Well,
that's what I want to do. So Dana just asked that question. What's the actual app for Black Wall Street?
The actual app on Android and in the App Store, both Google Play, App Store, is you type in the Black Wall Street and it'll be a purple, I'll show it to y'all. Might as well just do that because it's right here. You type it up and it'll look like this, like a little rising sun that's purple and blue, and it'll look like that. And you go in And then this is it live. And so you come in, you can see all these educational videos, myself and my co-founder, Naja Roberts, all of them 2 minutes and under and less. And this is one of the most powerful things that doesn't exist on any of these apps. I'm going to show you something. So you go in and you're going to, what I call dollar cost average. And I want to create a savings vault for my son, because I know that maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but by the time he's 20, for instance, Bitcoin is going to be worth a great deal because of the finite supply. And therefore, to take the volatility edge off of it, I'm going to give myself a 10 to 15 year time horizon if that's what I choose. But I want to open up a savings vault for Pierce. And there it is. So I'm going to go buy an asset. And look what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in here weekly. I'm going to do a weekly buy of $10. I just put that in. And I'm going to go to the savings vault. I'm going to hit Pierce. And I'm going to say, continue, confirm transaction. It says recurring purchase set up successfully. So I'm going to buy $10 of that asset, put into that vault for Pierce, with me having to not think about it again. By the time he's 20 years old, that'll be worth over $1 million easily. And that's an example of using technology to build it for our future, to deal with cross-generational wealth. You know, I talk about Robinhood, and I say these platforms, Robinhood is robbing the hood, because they're trying to make people professional traders. Don't be a professional trader. Set up recurring buys, dollar cost averaging buys on a Black-owned platform, so the money and the dollars are recirculating. And you know, it's a whole nother conversation. We talk about why it's critical to have a Black-owned wallet. Every time you put your money into Apple Pay, Venmo, PayPal, et cetera, it leaves our community. We have to recirculate our dollars in our community. We have to invest in ascending value asset classes for our future generations. And when we can do it in really passive ways, like I just did, that's agnostic to price and allows for dollar cost averaging over time. And if we do that, we really will win.
Hill, we appreciate you so much for being here with us today. The power of effective networking, the collective by Black in HR. We couldn't have been more privileged to have you drop some dimes on the audience. I know that everyone here gained a lot out of what we just kind of talked about today. We're going to make sure that this is available for other folks that weren't able to listen in. You'll get to listen again. Folks are downloading the Black Wall Street app. Shout out to y'all. Continue to do that. Continue to circulate.
Thank you. Thank you for the support. That's the way we build a successful platform, is just by building the usership base up and folks going all the way through the funnel to register and all of that. I'm so appreciative of it, and spread the word, because we need to start saving and building assets for ourselves as well as future generations. Absolutely.
Absolutely. The last thing that I'm going to do, and Hill, I know you probably have to drop, brother. Peace out. I love you. I'll hit you up later on. Everybody, a little hand clap down in the chat room for Hill.
Thank you, everybody.
For everyone that's here, there's a SHRM credit that you get for tonight. Thank you for attending the session from the Black in HR board. We really appreciate your support. We look forward to continuing to bring you this great content and opportunities. If you haven't joined our elite membership program, please head to theblackandhr.com. Sign up today for exclusive access to premium content and discounts on professional development tools and coaching. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Peace.